Okay. All right. Live. I'm just gonna share this real quick. Cyberpunk. It's everything. Okay, and then I'm gonna upload a photo. Tweeting out about this right now. Check it. A silver hand. Back to the camera. Cyberpunk 7. That's about it. Okay. Sweet. All right. Hello. Hello. Welcome. All right. So yeah, I was just tweeting out about the stream. So we'll see if anyone shows up. That'd be cool. As you all are right now, which is good. I'm just basically just testing things out. Hopefully, the quality of this is actually pretty good. I've never really done a live on YouTube before, just going directly live. So this is actually new to me. So I figured, you know what, I wanted to do this. And hey, Josh, how are you? And I think Druv. Apologize if I mispronounced that. So, um, yeah, I was going to do this as just a video and then just upload it. But I figured, you know what, I would come in here and sort of let's talk about Cyberpunk. Hello, welcome. Originally, I was going to be doing this video as sort of a quick video for Twitter, but then just obviously with what Xbox is basically has come out and said, and what Sony has come out and said, in that they are offering full refunds for those who purchase Cyberpunk. And it doesn't look like that. I think, from what I understand, I don't think that Xbox is going to be removing the Cyberpunk from the store. From what I can see, looks like obviously Sony has. Hello, welcome. But I wanted to talk about it because I understand there is a lot of frustration about Cyberpunk right now. But this does bring up an issue that essentially I'm not new to. You may think this is sort of unprecedented. You may think that that this is something that doesn't happen, but this is something that has been happening to the accessibility community for a long time. I understand you're frustrated about transparency, the fact that CD Projekt Red hadn't given you any information about anything for consoles, and really not showing you a lot of gameplay. Even the reviews, the review codes were only sent for PC only, and they also were only sent to a few reviewers. And then obviously the game came out and had a lot of problems. People couldn't play it. There was no information given about kind of how the game was going to run on those consoles. There was no information given about whether or not it was playable. There was no way to be able to refund your game at the when you first bought it until just now, when Sony and PlayStation have now offered refunds, and CD Projekt Red directly. This has been something, as frustrated as you are about it, this is what people in the accessibility community or the disabled community have been frustrated for years. The refund policies have been a problem for a long time, especially for digital refunds. To kind of give a bit of an example, to kind of give you basically more of to kind of give more of information. Essentially, for the disabled community, anytime that we need to get a refund, we can't. It's hard. It's really difficult to be able to justify a refund to Microsoft, to Sony, to Nintendo whenever we purchase a game that we have no idea of whether or not we can play it, only to find out after we started playing it that we can't play it, but we can't get a refund. The only time that we disabled players are able to get any money for it is hopefully submit a request and that Microsoft and Sony can and Nintendo can offer it, but they more often don't. And also, if you buy it physically, then you can maybe trade it in to a store and get some money back, but it's very rare that we'll be able to get a full refund. So the digital refund policies of these companies are terrible. Some are better than others, but it still goes down to the fact if you downloaded the game, that's it. You voided your chance to get a full refund across the board. And Nintendo is actually, I will probably say Nintendo is probably the worst because it is in their FAQ. It is still there to this day that they do not offer they do not offer refunds for digital purchases. And the reasoning is that you have to, like, you should have looked at reviews, you should have looked at screenshots, you should have looked at gameplay to determine whether that game was right for you. But for disabled players, we won't know until we can play it until we actually play it. And so when Cyberpunk offered refunds for the game, this is something that the people, the disabled community, are like, it's about damn time. Like, come on. We've been begging for this for years to be able to have this. Like, and I hope that basically Microsoft and Sony will keep at least some semblance of this new digital refund policy for those who can't play the game. And in regards to let's jump in even to the gameplay itself. A lot of people on base PS4s and Xbox Ones can't play this game, whether it's low frame rate, constant bugs, the game crashing. You can't play the game. You physically cannot play the game. In the disabled community, even if the game doesn't have any of that, we still can't play the game. And yet we still can't get any, not only just a refund, but any information about whether or not we can actually play it. To give some context, so a lot of you knew about the game coming out in 2012. That was the first time we ever heard about anything being produced from CD Projekt Red about Cyberpunk. 8 years. 8 years. We did not know anything about the accessibility of the game, except for one small tweet that said you can adjust subtitle size and color. That was it. And then, when we finally did receive information about the accessibility that was in the game, hours before it released. And it was a forum post that was just on the PC side. It didn't even label it on the Xbox or PS4 of what was going to be in there either. So it was one forum post. That was it. 8 years. 8 years. And it took, it was hours before released, before we saw anything. That's why I had the video up on my YouTube channel just recently, where I had people who reviewed the game come in and tell me what was there, because we didn't have any of that information. Because the review embargo didn't allow anyone to be able to show any of these settings until you actually got to go in and play it. And those who were able to play it early and launch it early could finally show the settings. And even then, no one really knows to look into the settings to see if there's any accessibility information. So to see that that's the steps we had to take in order to be able to get any information out for disabled players. So let's jump into just beyond accessibility. we didn't know any information about the console release at all. We didn't know any information about how it was going to run on Xbox One or PS4 until people got their hands on it, until players got their hands on it. The same frustration you felt with that is the same frustration we feel every time that we want to play a game and we don't even know if we can play it. So that is something that has been in my like in my head for the past several days since release, that I am just frustrated. I am just frustrated with the same frustration you feel is the same frustration I feel, and I have felt before every game's release, because of just being in this accessibility space for a while. This is something that is just completely unacceptable. Now, I'm not saying that anyone at CD Projekt Red is at fault. The teams that are there have worked so hard. I understand that. Coming from a consultant side, I see developers, I talk to developers on a regular basis about accessibility and adding stuff into the game. So I do have a general knowledge of that side of the curtain, as it were. I don't know everything, and I don't know 100% sort of why these bugs or why these certain things occur, but I do understand the pressure that is on a developer to be able to get the job done in any means necessary, whether that's working long hours, whether that's crunching to try to be able to get one little bug fixed, knowing that they have an entire list of bugs that are still left untouched, and it's just an insurmounting growth of that list. It's like sort of that scene in a lot of movies where you see like a guy or a woman who is stuck in an office, and then just their pile of paperwork that they have to do keeps piling up and piling up and piling up. That's how those developers felt. It just kept growing and growing to a point where it didn't feel like that they were accomplishing anything, and it was like a bottomless pit of just stuff that had to be done and had to be fixed. So I don't knock any of the developers for the reason why this game is as it is. I definitely think that this is a leadership problem, and this is the same even on the accessibility side. The reason why a lot of accessibility didn't really exist until really a lot this year, when it was sort of people became aware of it, is because there are people in leadership positions that usually cut accessibility. I've heard many stories of of developers who have been in like executive meetings where they have to they have a deadline they have to meet, and they have a list of features that they've been trying to work on, and they have to decide what features stay in and what features go. And I've heard several times where leadership basically says accessibility is the first to go. That happens a lot, more than you think. And so whenever it comes down from the leadership that's not able to decide. And I'll even say this, it's been publicly has been said as well. The Last of Us being the most accessible game we've seen. It originally wasn't it wasn't sort of fully sanctioned across the board in Naughty Dog. It took a little bit of convincing for the hires up to basically decide, yeah, you know what, the accessibility is worth trying, because it took a small team to show the potential of what this can be. And unfortunately, in a lot of studios, usually the roadblock when it comes to accessibility is usually the executives and the managers that are in higher up positions, because and I understand their problem too. They have to manage this giant project. They have a deadline to meet. They have shareholders that they have to sort of cater to, and they have to release a product, and there's certain options that need to go. So I understand that aspect, but I will say that the whole Cyberpunk situation was I'd say mostly from the fault of executives at a higher up position that just didn't grasp what was needed, didn't dedicate the time and manage their team's time properly enough to be able to fix the problems that this game had. Yeah, they knew that there was problems in the game, 100%. Much like a lot of developers, they know that there's problems in the game that are for accessibility. They know developers know that there's problems with the accessibility, but they can't talk about it. But they just sort of go along with it. So it's, I think I might be going on a bit of a tangent here, but that is like, it is a lot of the frustration, a lot of the things we're hearing about the lack of leadership, the bugs, the refunds, everything that has been coming out about the problems with CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk has been felt and repeated many times by people in the accessibility community. Essentially, we were the canary in the coal mines. We knew that there was going to be problems. A lot of us in the accessibility community, we knew Cyberpunk was going to be a major problem. This isn't new to us. I actually made a video, I think actually the beginning of this year or sometime this year, where I was looking at what the footage of what Cyberpunk was giving, and it showed, like, I saw problems then. Not necessarily in regards to how many bugs or unplayable or the stuff that we're seeing now, but I could see just based on that footage that accessibility was going to be a problem. But because we didn't receive any information about it, we couldn't do anything. We couldn't say anything. I'd heard from some developers that they were adding in accessibility, and they did to a degree. But it's not great. By no means accessible. By no means like a game that I would say, yeah, you know what, disabled players can play this. I can't give that recommendation. That's the thing. I like this game. I like the story. I'm forcing myself to play it because of forcing myself to get past the barriers that I have for my disability, just because I want to be able to keep playing this game. I love the cyberpunk genre. I always have. I mean, hell, I've got like the Matrix, like a little section here. Like I love the Matrix, and so I love cyberpunk genre since the 90s. So this is something I've been wanting to play, but I'm having to force myself to play it because of the lack of accessibility. So before I get into the comments, I know that there's some of you actually are chatting in there, and I'll read in a sec. But I wanted to at least get that out there because I want you to understand that the same frustration you feel is the same frustration that we in the accessibility community have been feeling for years. So hold on to that. I don't want to say hold on to that anger, but remember that next time whenever you see one of us in the community that says, hey, this is not good, and this is not farewell. This is not something that is a problem, because it is. And we feel it every single time we jump into a new game. And so what can be done from a developer standpoint? What can be done from a studio standpoint to be able to fix this? More transparency. Be transparent. Even if you think that this is going to be bad news, that's fine. There's going to be a vocal minority that's going to basically be pissed off at you, but the majority of gamers will understand. We've understood every single time that CD Projekt Red delayed the game. Yeah, it was sad. It was frustrating, but we understood, hey, this is a large project. Like you have to take the time to be able to work on it and fix it. Should Cyberpunk have been delayed? Yes, 100%. Should have been delayed another year, but they couldn't. So you got to be transparent. Like, here's the problems we're having. COVID was the closest they ever came to transparency, in that COVID was causing problems. Sure, yeah, okay. It was more than that. You could have basically said that because you got to remember there was at one point that they said, "Oh yeah, the game's completely playable. We're just fixing polishing it." When you're in a polishing stage, usually you're kind of at the point where you've kind of fixed a lot of the bugs. You're just now kind of adding quality of life. So, they were completely. You need to be transparent about what is happening in the game. You need to be transparent about the accessibility. You need to let us know, hey, we're working on something. We're working on accessibility. We're working on more stuff here. We ask that you sort of let us sort of keep working on it. We will give you an update when we can, because that honest transparency means a lot more than just false pretenses. What else can be done? Start with accessibility. Start with manage the time at the beginning of the project. I know that there was developers that basically that started a little bit late in like around 2016 because they were finished. There was a large group of CD Projekt Red that was working on Witcher 3. So the first few years, I'll give them that they were sort of trying to figure out what Cyberpunk was going to be, and they were sort of testing out a bunch of different stuff and trying to make things work. So that I understand that, but when you're talking about accessibility and or like just about the development in the game, you have to sort of like learn from that and develop that early so that it can get you can get fixed later on. Because then at that point, you can start talking about settings and stuff that you're working on and be like, "Hey, man, we're working on this thing from the beginning. We're trying this out, and like we're working on certain things. And if you bring in consultants, not just from accessibility side, but just consultants like in QA, and say, hey, is there any problems with this? What can we be able to do to fix it? If you do that, if you manage that time wisely, you can create amazing games. Another thing you can be able to do is like start like allow the developers time to be able to work things out. Shareholders making money, that's the manager's position, because they have to be able to make sure that their company is going to be solvent by the time that the project comes out. They want to make sure that their company is going to be available to work on the next project after the game's released. They want to make sure that the company still survives after this project's released. So you have to manage time properly. You have to be able to manage like where, yes, there's going to be times where overtime is going to be needed. There's going to be times where there's going to be deadlines that are going to have to be met. That's the same in any job. It doesn't matter what, it's not just isolated to video games. There's a lot more to the crunch that happens everywhere. It's not great, but things need to be done. But you have to manage that time wisely so that more of those those deadlines don't keep coming up, and you're still not able to fix the problems that you're having. And here's the thing. I've been in several like meetings in a corporate standpoint where we just talk about meetings about having meetings, because there's nothing that's being decided. No one from a higher up position is deciding on what, like, here's what we need to do. You have to manage that time wisely. So those are the kind of the three things. And all right, yeah, let's see what's being said. It is very blurry. Oh, yeah, you're talking about the game. Okay, I thought you were talking about my stream. Let's see. It is pretty bad. It is pretty bad, Dana. Let's see. It looks like someone's smeared pink Vaseline on my TV. Yep. To be fair, we saw how awful their tweets were, so we could kind of guess. Yep, Chrissy, that's exactly what it was. Josh, I got Cyberpunk on a base Xbox One. I managed to put over 30 hours into it, even being legally blind. I played and I enjoyed it. I have a pretty big TV, so that helps. Yeah, I do too, Josh. Like, that's how I'm able to keep playing it, because I have a 50-inch TV sitting in front of me, a foot and a half away. That's how I'm able to play it right now. But the UI and text size for menus is pretty small, and I wish it was adjustable. Yep, agreed. And that's the other thing too. So even the accessibility side. So I've been playing it on Xbox because it's the only place I can be able to use magnifier, because PlayStation 5 doesn't have one. They don't have the zoom feature that was on the PS4. So I've been using the magnification on Xbox, and that's fine, but that shouldn't be a fix for the game's problems. The fact that it had smaller UI and smaller text, it should be adjustable in the game, not have to use systems options in order to be able to accommodate for that. Because when I use magnifier, essentially it disables a lot of the controls on the controller. It's like all the buttons on the controller. So the only thing you can do is basically just zoom in. So it only works when you're in a menu setting, when you're not in a scenario where you have to sort of escape, or like you have to hold, basically you're in combat. I would never be able to use a magnifier in a combat situation, because I wouldn't be able, like, buttons would be disabled. So you never want to be able to use just a system options to be able to fix the problem that the overall UI has been causing. Let's see. What's your opinion on Steam's refund policy? They will let you refund within first 2 hours, first 2 weeks. However, it wouldn't be hard to manage a situation where that isn't enough. I actually have seen and have said that Steam's refund policy is good. It's not ideal, but it's definitely something that should be considered for Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo for sure. Everyone on Twitter predicted the game would become a meme back in 2018. I just didn't realize what it would be because of how rough that their launch would be. Yeah, agreed. I play this game as well. I'm not used to play first-person shooters, but I'll get there. And best is cool a game though. Yeah, yeah. If console lets you turn off chromatic aberration and motion blur, do it. Trust me, it's much more clear. So that's the thing too. So here's, oh yeah, Did you know that motion blur and chromatic aberration and camera shake has been is accessibility settings technically? It's both. It really, in reality, is kind of designed for accessibility purposes. So it's funny that basically people are using that to be able to get a clear image on Xbox One and PS4 to try to be able to at least get a better image, because that stuff is just not necessarily needed as much. So it's funny to be able to see that being used, and and it's like, yeah, we've been wanting that in games for a long time, and now people are seeing the benefits of it. Let's see. The video isn't blurry. The game is blurry. Yeah, okay, yeah, thank you. Like when they when they fire the guy at Twitch. Oh, don't get me started, Game Daughter. Oh my God, I will go in a rant about Twitch is a whole other problem. That's a whole other video. But that's a good point. You can turn off motion blur. Oh, yep, sorry. Also, I'm wearing glasses because I can't see for some time. It's hard to see it when it's blurry without glasses on. Yep, I agree. Closed captioning works very well. Size 2 since I am hard of hearing. Yep, closed captioning, subtitles, something that we all want. Agree. I like the story as well. The story 30 plus hours in. I do enjoy Cyberpunk despite the issues and small UI and text. I enjoy it, but I definitely wasn't ready to be released. It 100% Josh. Where do you think this community goes from here? Like, can we capitalize on this somehow? How do we deal with the frustration of now that the ableds need something, changes get made? That is a good question, Christy. I don't know what the answer for that would be. It's one of those situations where I hope that at least this will sort of wake corporations up or companies up to have these policies changed, or because we haven't had an update in those refund policies for a long time. Accessibility community has been begging for it for a long time, but no one's really did anything because there was nothing that was sort of pressuring them to be able to do it. I think now that with this large of a game, now that Sony and Microsoft have to decide to be able to give refunds and removing the game from the store altogether because people can't play it, I hope that this will change the way that they do refunds, because of players who are not able to play the game, whether it's just from bugs or in general, or just from accessibility standpoint. Like this, I think this is going to be a benefit for people in the disabled community, much as a lot of people being able to work from home was almost a complete thing you couldn't do in a world before COVID. And now people are starting to see, oh yeah, working from home is actually not that bad. And I think we can be able to do that if we it's funny how something as large as this, whether it's Cyberpunk or the pandemic, have been can change can change certain things and certain policies, where the disabled community has been like, we've been saying this for years. What the hell? So I don't know whether there's a way to be able to capitalize on it, because the way to be able to capitalize on it would have basically been like, we told you so. And I don't think that's the way to be able to win over anybody. So I don't know 100% of what that would be. Blindyberry, I know there's not much accessibility at all. We need to find a way to convince those execs that accessibility is a feature worth keeping. And it's crucial for some people. Convince them that the smallest percentage is still millions of people. Yeah. Remember, there are 33 million Americans who are disabled and play video games. That's just in America. 15% of the entire world's population is considered disabled, whether that's cognitive, motor, blind, or deaf and hard of hearing. Now, granted, yes, they're like, what is the percentage of that of actually disabled people that want to play video games? But that's still 15% of the entire world's population. That's a good goal to be able to reach, because it just means that you have that's an untapped audience. It's an untapped potential audience to be able to you know what? I wasn't able to play video games my entire life. Now there's this game that I can be able to play. Heck yeah, I'm gonna give it a try. I'm kind of looking at it, even though I'm legally blind, I can make a lot of games work even though they aren't the most successful. I have fun, but it isn't always easy. Yeah, Josh, I'm in the same boat. Your face is blurry, but I think that's just because I'm blind. Yeah, your face is blurry too, Christy, just because, I'm the reason why. Yeah, it's never easy, but having a good time. I heard a bad launch, sadly. Yeah. I'll be honest, when I first learned about the blind community via my girlfriend, I wasn't sure if mainstream games with ally accessibility would even be possible. However, the video posted about Last of Us 2 gave me hope. Oh, thank you so much, Josiah. Yeah. That's the thing of what's the beauty of 2020 is that accessibility is now is now known. People know about accessibility, whether that's in small part because of my video this year or just about The Last of Us being the most accessible game ever, and it was getting a lot of mainstream press, which is amazing. Accessibility is now known, but you have to remember is that this isn't brand new. Accessibility has been in the works for years. It's just now we're seeing the fruits of we're seeing the fruits of that labor from years ago. The accessibility we're seeing today has been something that we within the community have been pushing for several years, and it's just only like it's only now coming to fruition. My hope is that now this will basically create a ripple effect of more accessibility in years to come for sure. So it looks like they're moving to all digital games. Oh, yeah, for sure. Last of Us 2, from an accessibility standpoint, really was unprecedented. Not all games or studios will go that far, but it sets the bar for what can be done. Agreed. And yes, it would be difficult to be able to for any studio to be able to get that far because Naughty Dog has a lot of developers that are working on it, so they had the luxury of the resources available. So yes, there are definitely some studios that probably not necessarily be able to reach the scope of what The Last of Us 2 did, but they can. That is still a goal to be able to reach, and I think they can be able to do accessibility in such a way that it is comparable to what is what is available in The Last of Us for sure. If The Last of Us 2 has set the bar for accessibility, what do you think it will take to get other companies to acknowledge and strive to achieve that standard? Just more conversations about it, and the studios being more willing to talk to people in the community and consult with people who are disabled. It's I think The Last of Us 2 being the sort of the bastion of accessibility right now. I think there are definitely studios that are looking at it and being like, how can we do that? So they're in the process of starting, like if they haven't been in the process before, they're definitely in the process now to be able to make that happen. The pandemic has made previously impossible accommodation seem easy. Has broken the status quo in a good way. That's a point I've been bringing up in my autism advocacy. Yep, 100%. I'm just trying to being legally blind with nystagmus plus ADHD. I can't play FPS for the life of me. Would I be able to muddle my way through Cyberpunk? Mackie, probably not. Probably not, unless you have like a high-end PC, or even right now, technically an Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5 might work. But if you're playing on an Xbox One or PS4, sometimes the frame rate can drop to like 10 frames a second. So probably not. It's a slower FPS and doesn't really need the best reflex. It's true. True, Josh. But I will say it's like, if you're having trouble with FPSs already, and I have nystagmus, so I know exactly what you're talking about. It's difficult to be able to find an FPS that I've been able to do really well. And I think Destiny is probably the only one, and it has nothing to do with really the accessibility in Destiny. It's just because I have friends that are able to help me. And over time, over the past 2 years, I've gotten better at it. So it really depends on how much you want to be able to dedicate into a game. I hope so. They made any of those ones too. So games are good. And I hope anyone make any games easier for anyone who have problems like to see or for hear anything about that. Yeah. More RPG than shooter in that. Yeah. Your Last of Us 2 video brought me to tears and gave me so much hope. I return to it when I feel excluded and frustrated. Thank you so much, Mackie. That means a lot. It takes several years to see accessibility implemented because it takes years to make games. Yeah. And that's the thing. You want to start accessibility from the very beginning. It's the only way to be able to make it happen. It's the only way to be able to kind of like keep an eye on it and develop it and add resources to it when it's been added in from the beginning. If it's added in later, more than likely those features will get cut because it can't be fixed, because the UI, the engine has been locked in from the very beginning. It is very difficult to be able to open up that jar again to be able to add in accessibility. And when you can add accessibility in, sometimes a lot of the stuff that's being added in won't do the job that you wanted it to do because it can only fix so much. The bad frame rate will make your nystagmus go nuts. Yes, 100%. We'll be building a PC as soon as I can get a 3080. Yeah, I have yet to get a 3080. I have a 2070 right now. I like it, and it could work, but probably not the best that I could be able to push at it. So that's why I'm playing it on Xbox. I worked on my 1060 on half low and medium, but still in combat going 40. Yeah. My opinion, Splatoon is the best shooter for low vision folks through, though it doesn't have any aim assist. Yeah, yeah. Also, Steve promoted to play, promised to play Splatoon. I did promise to play Splatoon. I will play it at some point. Very true. I've been staying with most FPS in the vein of Call of Duty. I just can't play well enough to enjoy, especially the multiplayer, which is the main draw. Yep, I can't play Call of Duty. I can't play Call of Duty at all. I tried, can't do it. Pretty much every Call of Duty that's come out, I haven't been able to play. So I used to play the older Battlefield titles. They were great. Halo is also really good for me. That was one of the early games I was actually able to complete was Halo on the original Xbox. I wasn't great at it. It took me like a long while to be able to beat it, but I did, and it was frustrating, really frustrating. So yeah. I think I kind of wow, I actually caught up to the chat. Ooh, interesting. So yeah, that was just kind of my quick thoughts. Again, I was originally just going to record this and upload it to YouTube, but I figured, you know what, this is probably the easier way to be able to do it instead of just exporting and like uploading and stuff like that. I can just sort of do it on here. As an avid PC gamer, it frustrates me when some argue that the game was not designed for Xbox One and PS4, where it was meant to be released before the new gen consoles ever came out. True. So that's the thing. You can definitely tell that the game was designed like for PC first before it was really designed for consoles. I think the console versions, I think that because they were trying to do Xbox One, PS4, Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, Stadia at the same time, that's a lot to be able to like cram in a short period of time. So it's no wonder that the PC runs better than any of the consoles because that proves my point about when you sort of develop it early. It was developed for PC first. It was designed for PC first. And when you work on that from the beginning, then that's why the PC version is like, yeah, there's bugs in it, but it plays and runs better than any of the consoles because it wasn't thought of from the beginning. I can't say for certain. Like, they could have been working on Xbox One and PS4 at the same time. I don't know. But a lot of times they design on PC before they actually go into designing it for console, unless they're a specific console exclusive studio. Designers like being able to adjust the size of, but not being able to adjust the font size. There are decisions they chose. Oh yeah, 100%, Maggie. Yeah, that was something we kept saying for a while. Like, you can adjust the genitals, but you can't adjust the font size. How is that a priority? See if you've noticed the sexual assault stuff in Cyberpunk. One of your guests mentioned it in your video, and I consider that an accessibility issue since 80% of women with disabilities have experienced sexual assault. I have not seen that as of yet. I'm still pretty early on, but I have heard about it, and obviously in that conversation that did come up. That is something that definitely, there was two things going against Cyberpunk that basically caused why that happened. One, the original source material. The original source material was developed in the 80s, at a time where no one knew what the future past 2020 was gonna what it was gonna be. That's the thing. So I think like the original Cyberpunk RPG, if you don't know, that was designed as a tabletop RPG, similar to like Dungeons and Dragons. The first edition is set in 2013, but it was made this was a game that was made in the 80s. And then eventually a new version was released, and it was Cyberpunk 2020. And a lot of that stuff that's in there, that the sort of the toxic nature of sexuality and gender, and basically treating women as objects, was very much in that time frame of what people in the 80s thought the future like Cyberpunk was going to be like. So that was what, and CD Projekt Red trying to be true to the source material, they added that a little bit in there. Now they could have basically taken that and elevated it because it's set farther in the future than the original source material in 2077, but they decided not to because there was a lot of my guess is that because it was developed around 2012, 2013, the initial ideas of it, They wanted to kind of stay true to that sort of initial idea because, yeah, I remember 2013 was Gamergate. That was something that was like the toxic gamer dude bros of nature of the industry is something that they kind of like created towards and sort of catered the story towards. And you can tell that it was something like that. There was executives that sort of like really push for that because there are small little elements of different parts of the characters that they try that you can tell that other writers try to be able to push in to add more inclusivity into it. That's why people love the character of Judy and Panem, because essentially like those are characters that are really inclusive and they weren't really given much to do because of just the overall story and a lot of the feel and the sort of the lore of cyberpunk in that it's mentalities that have been stuck for now 3 decades. Wait, yeah, no, 4 decades. Yeah, it's been about 30, 40 years old now. That mentality, and that should have changed when they made it, but it's not. I hope that like, and also, oh yeah, this is another thing too. So because CD Projekt Red is it's in Norway, I think, right? Or essentially, or like it's in Europe, essentially. They don't have the same kind of Western mentality that we do here. So being inclusive, accessibility minded, that's just not thought of in that aspect there. I don't want to say for certain. I don't want to sort of speculate and kind of going down that tangent because there's information that is there that I just don't know about because I don't have those particular experiences. But from what I have heard is that the toxic nature, the lack of accessibility, the crunch, all of that from what I've heard from people that are in that area, essentially this is just common. It's not that's just the way it is. Um they legit had limited edition Cyberpunk X. Yeah, true. And also as well, technically for now for a while, it's an Xbox exclusive, which is not exactly a great exclusive to have, but you know, whatever. It's going to be released last April before delays. Just think of it. Yeah, that's probably why it just was. They probably thought it probably was unplayable on PC, so that's why they kind of delayed it. 8+ years in development over multiple console generations, a tough gig for any developer. Yeah, totally. I feel for the developers so badly on that. It's not their fault. They tried the best they could. It was just lack of like the time management and the higher ups essentially kind of failed them in that regard. Cyberpunk source material is pretty grim and very adult in theme and subject matter with a lot of rule of cool. Yep, that's exactly it. That's why they kept to the source material to it. So they like it because they were consulting with the creator of it, and I don't think that the creator of it basically learned from it and he kind of kept that sort of that mentality throughout the whole process. Oh, hi, hello, welcome to the stream. Not very GTA though. True, no flying cars though. Yeah, it's that Cyberpunk didn't really cover any philosophy. True, that's the thing. That's why I love the Matrix because it adds a lot more depth to it. Which unfortunately with this, it's just sort of like, hey, look how cool this is. Oh my god. Lots of bad dialogue. Yep, I haven't received my refund yet. Hope you do, Climax. Do you think it's poetic justice that GOG.com removed Devotion from their store list and Sony removed Cyberpunk 2077? I don't know if it's poetic justice, but it's definitely it's interesting. It's kind of funny. So, no offense, but they needed more devs. I don't think it's in regards to needed more devs. I think it was just the scope got away from them. And you can tell because they try to add so much more to it, but they didn't really dive deep into the systems that they had to be able to make it better. They didn't really develop a lot into the RPG side of things. They didn't really develop a lot into the crafting side of things. They just sort of try to be able to make like just create the world around them that they didn't really add any depth to it. Do you have any recommendations for VR games for VIPs? Ooh. I don't know. I don't play a lot of VR games, and unfortunately, right now, VR games is still kind of the issue with VR games, right, is that the developers are trying to be able to make it so that people don't throw up or get sick. So right now, there's not a lot of VR games I would recommend. Half-Life Alex, I've heard has some pretty decent accessibility, but I haven't played it myself, so I can't say for certain. Ironically, I found a lore entry about the Polish church. The game was made in Poland. That's it. It was Poland. Thank you. I wonder what you think of it. Yeah, it's yeah. I don't know what my take would be on it, but yeah, it's definitely um, yeah, yeah. That's all I can say. It's just the crash bug. There's no excuses, but they didn't. They ran out of time, and it was unfortunately management that was or time didn't wasn't managed properly. A lot of them was working on Cyberpunk are the same one who worked on Mass Effect Drama. Mr. Mentor, I understand. I think you're trying. I know you're trying to be able to have the comparison and the fact that people thought that Mass Effect was a bad game, so that like the Cyberpunk is a bad game. I don't think that's the case. Again, I think it's just due to management, and you can see that from BioWare and CD Projekt Red. Just look at Anthem. Anthem was mishandled from the because of executives mishandling the time for developers. They only gave Anthem developers 18 months to be able to complete that game. It wasn't even started. It barely was started at that point, and they gave them 18 months to complete it. So it's not the devs' fault from moving from Andromeda to Cyberpunk. That's the only correlation there was just poor time management from executives. When they cover certain philosophies, like transhumanism, primatism. Yeah, Cowboy. Yeah, I would agree. I would have loved to have seen that. I'd love to be able to see more philosophies being discovered or talked about in Cyberpunk. It doesn't really. It's still in that sort of grungy, like look at me, flashy kind of thing. It's never really a lot of depth at the moment. Are there any games in the Cyberpunk genre that you enjoy? Ghost Runner, Cloudpunk. I haven't really played a lot, to be honest. I can't really say. I don't know. I don't know what I don't know what I would recommend. Observer, from what I hear, is actually pretty good. If you want something in the cyberpunk kind of genre, I've heard that that's actually pretty decent. Ghost Runner, I've heard, is pretty decent. So, but I have not played any of them to really give a proper opinion. I personally like the game. It definitely felt more like an immersive sim, like Deus Ex Dishonored, rather than an RPG, and hated the endings. I've played a bit of Deus Ex. I've not played Dishonored, so I can't say for certain about that. But it's a cool. Yeah, I would say it's more. I would say more immersive sim than RPG. I would agree with that though. The video missions in Cyberpunk. Are you talking about the brain dance stuff? I don't mind them. They're okay, but I will say, oh, this is a big problem I'm having with the brain dance. So yes, okay, they did fix the seizure stuff so that the flashing lights have been fixed, and I can attest it has been fixed. It's not the greatest because it definitely still hurts my eyes a little bit, but it's as far as I know, it's fixed in that regard. But the problem I'm having with the brain dance now is anytime that you rewind or fast forward, there's a giant glitchy effect that's happening all across the screen, and it messes with my eyes. I had to put the game down after my first brain dance because it was giving me a headache. It's not great. I hate that glitchy effect. And that's unfortunately part of the cyberpunk aesthetic. Now the cyberpunk RPG was great by Blackman back once, but he does really care about his RPG and his universe. So a lot of the main world building and history came from him. Yes, Josh, you're right. That is definitely true. That is Mike Pondsmith. So I think it just they wanted to be able to do right by him, and he wanted to be able to make sure that his source material was kept. So I think I don't know what they could have done to basically like fix any of the sort of inclusivity of it, or just kind of evolve the from the source material. But I don't know if that I wasn't involved in obviously any of those kind of being. So I don't know what was discussed about that. So I don't know. I'm waiting for the discount sale. I hope that it will fix this months down the road. It's amazing how this happened, though. Shining a light on bad leadership, management, crushing game devs. Yep. I like the cynical, grim, but edgy, cool world he and his team came up with way back in the 80s. At the time, it was a cool concept. I remember playing it. And actually, there was one point I was going to do a podcast about Cyberpunk about a year or so ago. And I was going to be doing a game sessions where we were playing some of the stories set in that world. And it was interesting. I liked the concept. Definitely some things that were a little bit more adult that I was like, ooh, you're just trying to be edgy for edgy's sake. But whatever. I worked at the game studio, Rockstar Vancouver. Time management is not their strong suit. Yeah. Yep. Was solid. Do you think in 2 months Cyberpunk will have more or less players than Avengers? I'd say more. Probably. Cyberpunk was more anticipated than the Avengers, to be honest. Unless Avengers was able to like bring in something to be able to kind of bring people back. I like Avengers. I think it's great, but I think Cyberpunk has a much better chance of getting more people to come back. A lot of times we were given unrealistic deadlines and had to work without rest for days on end. Yeah, Tessa, I completely understand. That's where crunch really comes down to. It's time management, and from managers. It's not the developers' fault. It's not that like they say, oh, that it's developers. They care about the game. They're passionate about the game. No, the management's basically just putting the blame on the devs. It's their fault for basically pushing them too hard and not managing time properly. That's really the problem with that. I'm just gonna wait out a few for months before I buy. Yeah, probably will see the philosophy stuff in the world expansions for Cyberpunk 2077. I hope so. If they have planned for DLC, I'd be willing to try it. We'll see. There were two Bioware studios during Anthem. Bioware Edmonton worked on Anthem, and Bioware Montreal worked on Immune Drona. I know, but it's Bioware in general. Like it's the time. Like I know what you mean, Tormentor, but like it's not the developer's fault because they came from Andromeda that it's the same bad devs from them. It's the same bad devs at CD Projekt Red. It's really the management of both those teams just weren't able to like that's what caused a lot of the crunch. Which definitely gets more into humanity and transhumanism than the art game only touches on in small aspects. Of course, an RPG is open-ended by nature. Yep. It'd be cool if they made a video game that was an anti-technology, fairly sure Deus Ex quotes to Kaczynski. Isn't that Horizon though? To a degree. I mean, Horizon is essentially the core of that story. Essentially, like people like abandoning technology. I think, unless I missed something. Cyberpunk is doing way better on PC than consoles. Yep. Putting out a pattern, a yellow message saying that the game, a patented yellow message saying that the game isn't done and will be treated as a sort of released early access would honestly be the best move. I don't know if that would be the best move, speed runs, but because it's already at the point they can't the genie's out of the bottle or out of the lamp. They can't go back and say, oh, it's early access now. No, they released the game. They can't go back in that. If they announced it years ago or like, oh yeah, it's coming out this time, it's early access, might have been okay, and they might have tried to get gain some goodwill back, but they released it. You can't go back and say, oh, now it's early access. No, that's not the way to win over players. So that's over a couple of years. Yeah, true. More players on PC than most. Yeah, vendors need to ton drop that Black Panther and Spidey. Yeah. So total playable on PC. In your opinion, is Cyberpunk worth playing on Xbox One? It's what I'm playing it on. If you have an Xbox Series X or S, might be better. But I don't have an Xbox One or PS4 to really see how it is on there. From what I've seen, it's probably not great. I would probably play it on PC if you can right now, unless you're able to get your hands on an Xbox One X. Very disappointing that they had 10 years to develop this game. Yeah, it was about 8 roughly. I think it was 2012. Yeah, a couple of hiccups here or there, but nothing game breaking. I remember on Quora that the stocks are expected to continue to fall for CDPR and they may get swallowed up by a larger company like EA. Do you think there's a probability this could happen? Possibly, but we'll have to see how the market sort of value of the company kind of over the next little bit. I think it's a little bit right now, a bit premature to be able to think that they could be bought by a company because that takes a lot of paperwork and a lot of regulations and policies and stuff that would have to be like, it would take a while for a company to basically be like, yeah, let's buy it. So I would say it's possible, but only if it continues to keep falling and it gets worse and worse. So would it be worth it to go Cyberpunk on PC just seeing so much going wrong? Right now, I'd say, yeah, that's probably the best place to be able to play it right now is on PC. You slow that while you're slow to move on. I don't care. Okay. Would have been worse if they had delayed it another month and fixed all the bugs. I don't think a month was enough. I think they've been trying to fix the bugs for about a year. They needed another year, I think, or at least until summer. If they delayed it again to the summer, if they were transparent and basically said, "Hey, we got a lot of bugs to fix. We need it until the summer." If they were transparent enough, they probably would have. It probably wouldn't have been as bad as one of the previous delays. Just finish an Xbox. Definitely not worth it. Worth it waiting till I get the Series X for my next playthrough. It's almost unplayable on there, sadly. Oh, okay. All right. Thanks, Butch. I hadn't really thought seen like that. Hello, fellow vinyl here too. There's also a quick weird glitch effect when you choose to wait during a quest. Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I do remember that. Yeah, pretty the glitch effect is pretty much everywhere in the game. That's hard. Honestly, no, I'm fine with those taking their time as long as they don't get stuck in development hell. Yeah, yeah. Which I think is Josiah's pretty much what they've been under over the past year. Probably maybe even longer than that. We just don't know. Um, go. Okay. I know plans to buy it at launch. Is it worth playing ever? Probably I would say wait till a couple months until like I'd say maybe May or June wouldn't be a good bad. And hopefully it'll be fixed by then. The bugs on PC for Cyberpunk are not bad. It doesn't affect the gameplay or PC. Some of the bugs are really funny to laugh. Yeah, true. I played many times, and I gotta say it's a very hollow experience. Yeah. I wish it was good without the bugs. Um, yeah, I wish it was good. I wanted Cyberpunk to succeed. I wanted to see it do well. Like, I really did. I really did. Um, it's sad to see it happen this way. It's sad to see it go. And I know that people are like are really like harping on it and really like laughing and kicking CDPR while they're down. I really do hope that CDPR can be able to recover from this. I mean, you gotta think this is the studio that gave us The Witcher, so they can definitely do it. They have the track record. It's just unfortunate that Cyberpunk fell into that. Doubt CPR will get swallowed up by a large company. They're still sitting on a treasure trove of Witcher money. Yep. And despite Cyberpunk's negative press, it's still sold extremely well. Yeah. Who knows what actually will happen now that because they said it was like 8 million pre-orders. I don't know how many of those have been refunded, so it'll be interesting to see that number. I don't know if they'll ever announce it, but I would probably say it's a good significant number. They only released this part. I remember Arkham Knight PC. Is there any others that you can think of? Anthem and Fallout 76 come to mind, but more in regards to content and a little bit of bugs, not to the scale of this because Cyberpunk was more anticipated than I think anything else. How do you like the PS5 for low vision compared to PS4? It's good. It's really good. But I'd say like one thing I do miss on the PS5 that's not there is the zoom feature. That's on the PS4. I do miss that, but the screen reader is really great, and 3D audio is really great, and the DualSense actually is really good for blind players. So I enjoyed that quite a bit. CPR can manage to fix the game in a couple months. They could have a No Man's Sky type comeback, but there's a lot to be done. Like the AI is kind of horrendous. Yeah, I would love to be able to see them like have a No Man's Sky redemption. That'd be awesome. It is also boring. The city is so bad. It looks pretty, but it's so lifeless, and there is nothing there besides the side missions. Sorry for my English. I'm from Austria. No, that's okay. You're right. You're totally right. It's sad that like in the previews we saw all these like AI people just kind of wandering around making Night City so lively that it just was sad to see that it looked so empty in consoles. It looks okay on mine on Series X and looks great on PC, but yeah, for base one consoles, like it's weird seeing like only like 2 people walking down the street and like 3 cars. Finished story in 60 hours and was essentially done with the entire game. There was no incentive to go finish the side quest. I hear you. But Van Hell, I mostly mean continuous feature creep until the project is unreal. Yeah, I think it's probably what was happening, Josiah. I really, especially the NCPD. Yep, if you have a PC with at least a 1070 Ti, the game is definitely playable. Yeah, I would agree with that. Even if they recover, I don't want it to be one of those games that you only play for the DLC. Yeah, I would. I would think that too. Also got an in-game legendary weapon, and it's not even all that badass looking, though it shoots like a beast, like freaking Borderlands had cooler guns. Yeah, but Borderlands is like that's basically part of the gameplay is that you just the amount of like cool guns they have. Beyond bugs and glitches, a lot of Cyberpunk systems and mechanics don't work quite well as they should. Yep. Yep. I haven't really counted a lot of those like that breaks the game or makes the game unplayable for me right now, but I'm still early stages into it right now. Uh Yeah, also like side gigs are very copy and paste, rinse and repeat, disappointing. Mm. I find a lot of that problem with RPGs in general. It's not just isolated to Cyberpunk. This guy Final Fantasy 14 character however so to Cyberpunk. Yep, yep. Wish to have a PS5 but can't afford it. One day I will. I get that. I get that. I've been blessed that Sony sent me one. I wouldn't have been able to afford it otherwise. So I wish you all the best. Trying to be able to get one. Hope they had a No Man's Sky comeback. That would be amazing. Yeah, it was our one best ongoing game. They deserve that. I was surprised too, but it was like once they announced, I'm like, yep, 100%. They deserved it. Blind players, is that a thing? Yes, it is. Yeah, I hope there will be make more things for the patches. Yeah. Free DLCs could save cyber. Yeah, it's possible. I would love to be able to see like a Johnny Silverhand DLC. I think that could save it. Having Keanu Reeves, because Keanu Reeves. Here's the thing. What's funny is that even with all the Cyberpunk stuff in this, no one's shitted on Keanu Reeves because Keanu Reeves is untouchable at this point. Yeah. Cyber Psycho side missions for example, are poor man's witch contracts. Yeah, but it's CDPR, so it's kind of what they know. Should I get a refund? It's up to you. If you feel like it's still playable, go for it. If not, it's whatever. I mean, yeah, I would say it's go for a refund if you feel like you're not going to be able to play it or you feel like you can't play it right now. So it's up to you. Really feel bad for the folks at CPR. Yep, they definitely worked their asses off for sure. I like playing. It looks good to me. Not the best, but it's still a good game. Let's say. So there you go. Willing to wait. Def music. Is it possible to get a refund or still play? Oh, I already answered that question. Which games had so that the UI could be removable? Being half blind, seeing like no games have it is the worst. I would say the answer to that. Check out the Division 2. It's the only game I've really seen that you can actually be able to like adjust the UI or the HUD, and you can adjust the size and the scale of it, and you can. That would be something. It doesn't fix everything, but at least it fixes some elements, at least the kind of important elements. So I would definitely take a look at Division 2 if you can, because that the movement you can be able to move the UI to pretty much wherever you want, at least certain elements of it, not everything. Could this game still be in your top 10 at the end of the year? Maybe. Probably not. I don't know. I'm playing on PS4 Pro, though it is buggy. I've been enjoying it. Okay. Well, that's cool. I've yet to hear what people have been playing it on the PS4 Pro. When it went to Keanu. True. Do you think that they should pull physical copies? I would say it's up to. Mm, hmm, I would say it's up to the retailers if they want to. Um, yeah. PS4 is still playable for me, but I understand the refunds. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, Shuhei, for sure. Speaking of accessibility, first-person games make me dizzy, and I don't like them. I bought this one because of the hype, and now I'm wondering if I should wait or risk a headache. Tessa, I would say there are definitely some things that would make it like you can reduce camera shake, you can reduce motion blur, um, and if you have it on PC, you can be able to adjust the FOV so it's not as does make it can reduce the dizziness. Um, but I would say try it, and I mean, heck, now you can get a refund for it if you can't play it. Then try for a little bit and then see how it goes from there. Christopher, for myself, I grabbed this on sale because it is now you're basically just paying $60 for hype. Yep, yep. Also Xbox One X as well. Oh, cool, cool. SOV dramatically. Yeah, that's exactly it. Do you think CDPR should stick to fantasy games? No, I don't think so. I think they did well for a fantasy game, but I think that there's some nuggets of some good stuff in Cyberpunk. So it's not that they can't make it. I just think the issues lie was just within the gameplay. So I think that could be something like that is worth exploring for sure. And it would also not pigeonhole them into only one particular genre. PS4 Pro is buggy but still playable. Okay, they should keep it on PC game. Yeah, I think everyone should be able to play things regardless of what hardware they have. Don't know why it lags or bugs from this game or how it happened. Those have great UI customizability for blind players, and that's just the nature of the game, and even more so with the add-ons you can add to some of them. True. Yeah. Although I'm not usually a fan of adding mods into a game, I'm usually want to be able to play the game as is or what is in it. Mods can be finicky depending on where you get them from. Not that I don't trust it. I think there's definitely some good mods out there, but I'd rather the studio fix like mod the game instead of someone sort of hacking in essentially, which wouldn't be bad in Cyberpunk's case, obviously. I think Sony will ever bring back the zoom function on PS5. I use a lot. I don't know. I love to see it happen, but I don't know what their plans are. I think because the problem with the Zoom functionality was that Zoom functionality in the PS4 was relying upon that you could put, like long press the PS button. You can't do that with the DualShock, or not the DualShock, the DualSense. There's no long press anymore for the PS button. It's basically just only one press to bring up the little game bar menu on the bottom, and then that's it. So I don't know. They would have to sort of change how they would do the zoom, as it were. So something was good on Series X, some glitches, but what game didn't? True. I mean, I'm playing on Series X. I've seen a few glitches, but more funny stuff, not game breaking right now. Game What does FOV stand for? It stands for field of view. So you can basically expand basically turning it from like kind of the view over here to like widescreen. It's like making a game wider, so you can be able to see a lot more of your surroundings. You think there ever be an end to disappointing overhyped AAA buggy games? No, I don't think so. I mean, we're always going to see that. I don't think Cyberpunk is going to be the only one. It's just that's the one that's talked about today. Should this game be considered for game of the year next year, considering the state of it at launch? If it was eligible this year, should it be based on the final product or the main intended game? Um, I think it's a contender. It would really depend on how the game evolves next year. I think for right now, probably not. But for if the game gets fixed, if the game gets fixed and there's more stuff being added to it that makes the game even better, I would say it could be a contender for sure. Can we keep the game and get the refund for the digital download? No, it probably wouldn't be able to. It probably wouldn't be able to allow you to play it. Um, I believe and quietly hope that this monumental of a flop will change games' perception of pre-orders, and hopefully we'll all be a little more careful who we throw money at. Yeah, again, it's even go to the accessibility side. The more information we have beforehand allows us to be able to like jump in, and whether we within accessibility disabled community have been holding off on pre-orders for a long time because we don't know if we can play it, so we never jump into pre-orders. How do I read these messages? Actually, I can't even see what I look like right now. I actually have my screen magnifier turned up so that I'm only just looking at the chat, and the chat basically fills my entire screen. I have a 50-inch TV right now, so that's why I'm looking at it right now. So that's how I'm able to read the messages. Cyberpunk on PS5 is smooth, but game crashes every 2 hours. I've yet to see the game crash on me, but I'm on Series X, so I don't know. I'm generally not trying to be rude, but why are blind people being considered for a primary visual medium? As I said before, deaf music lovers. That's a whole other conversation, Cowboy. But the basic of it is that blind players want to be able to be immersed into worlds, and no entertainment medium should be exclusionary. And there are definitely ways that blind players can be able to play a game. I play games. I play them on a lot, and there are definitely people who have less vision than I do that want to be able to play these games too. So there are ways to be able to use sound and haptic feedback, and there's a lot of things that can be done to be able to make it so that that blind people can play games. I understand the sort of the contradiction of terms that it sounds like is that it's a primary visual medium, and so why would blind players want to be able to play games? But it comes down to we just want to be able to play the same things our friends are playing. So if there's more options to be able to allow us to be able to play games like The Last of Us 2, then that's great. A lot of my friends are able to play Last of Us 2 because of the accessibility options that are there. And we're able to talk about the game instead of just talking about, the difficulties we've had trying to play it. So games are good. We like games, even if we can't see great. Yeah. Christy basically just summed it up in a nutshell. That's exactly it. Balance the spectrum. Yep. So a lot of people are really, wow, you guys are nailing it. Yeah, you totally are all nailing it. As I would observe for me, when it comes to story and the characters, a good combat, but performance is a huge problem. But I haven't gotten that many bugs, and only one huge one. Okay, yeah, bias doesn't necessarily mean someone has zero ability to see. Agreed. Yep, and it definitely has been said. I think it was Josh that said, "Yep, it's more of a spectrum." And 9 out of 10 people who are blind have at least some vision. Um, Already a ton of mods to fix performance, video stability, bugs, but I do agree that it shouldn't be the players to fix the studio's games. Yep. I refunded at 60 minutes, and now I'm sad that I can't complain about the game. No, you can totally complain about the game. If you played it and you didn't like it and you couldn't play it, you can that's that's a valid sort of claim, and that's totally fine. You can the only time you can ever really you can complain about a game is if you haven't played it, or you can't complain about a game is if you haven't played it. So now that you played it, didn't work for you, didn't like it after 60 minutes, yeah, you can still complain about it. Magnifier is a blessing, 100%. Oh my god, I wouldn't be able to do anything what I do if it wasn't for magnifier. I mean, the definition of blind, it doesn't seem to be black or white. Which definition are you reaching from? Most blind people can still see in some capacity. Only a few are completely blind. Games are still played by even completely blind people, like my girlfriend, with proper accessibility features. Yes, Josiah basically kind of says it right. It's yeah. By the way, all the Switch, there is a zoom feature. Yes, a Switch does have a zoom feature. It's great. Will the price drop? Probably. It's when you have 2020 or visual acuity less or reduced field depth, so there's some vision there, but it's not perfect and it's bad enough to be considered blind. Yes, Josh says it right. Do I play Animal Crossing? I did when it came out. Not so much anymore. I honestly get that maybe, but you can't expect to be fully immersed when one of your major senses is impaired. You'd be surprised. There was audio, like there was a reason why a lot of people loved audio dramas back in the early days of radio before there was television. Story's a story, regardless of what medium it is. So, we all want to enjoy a good story. I plan to play my own Christmas, but I have to wait though. Oh well, hopefully you get it for Christmas or for Boxing Day or the day after Christmas sales. If someone has 2020 vision in one eye and the other is still 2020, that person is legally blind. Yep. Feels a bit like a double standard to me that Sony took down Cyberpunk, yet games like Fallout 76, No Man's Sky, Assassin's Creed Unity, and Anthem weren't taken down during. Um, that's a whole different conversation, and Jesse, and I honestly don't know the answer to that. I don't know what was the conversation that was happening behind the scenes for those other games, but you're right. You're right. It sounds weird to wrap your head around. Okay, I understand. Yeah, it takes a little bit to kind of get like to fully understand. So, yeah, it. Let's just say this: blind people can play games. It's not great, and there definitely are games that are not able, like we're not able to play. But it's definitely possible. Cyberpunk is still playable and some bugs. Yeah, it's also worth mentioning that there are lots of deaf music lovers. I do not have full hearing, and I've been playing and loving music my entire life. Yeah, you gotta remember Beethoven was deaf, and he was able to create one of the best pieces of music ever written. So, how do we start complaining again? Do you prefer Last of Us or Cyberpunk? Last of Us. Did you play Among Us? Yes. Did you prefer Tsushima or Cyberpunk? Tsushima. Oh, Christy, yeah, that's a good link to have. Yeah, for sure. Also, I have a video on my channel. What, like, if you look into my channel of what I see when I'm playing video games, that basically simulates to a pretty good degree of what it is I actually see. I know you already answered this question. Didn't hear you. No, it's okay. It's okay. What do you think of VR games for people like us? VR still needs to be worked on. I'd hope that we would have gotten to a point where VR would have been good for visually impaired people, but not so much at the moment. It's still years off. I finished the main campaign. No, I'm not. Am I planning on go through in the side quest? Maybe. I'm currently going through some of the side quests right now, but I don't know if I'll do all of them. But do kind of become a rinse and repeat. Like I think I might do it just to be able to kind of increase some of my skills and stuff like that. But that's probably it. If I get a refund, will I still be able to play? Or no, probably not. St. Stephen's Day about I've never heard of St. Stephen's Day. Not even blind and audio dramas were one of the most immersive experiences of my life. Didn't use my vision one bit, so I totally agree. Oh, okay. If you get a refund, it is like returning the game. You will no longer have access to it. Yeah. When you try to open up the game, it'll just give you an error. Video link is in the description. That is true. It is in the description. I forgot that it was actually there. Yeah. So, wow, there was a lot of you watching this. Damn, that's awesome. I didn't think that this was gonna be a thing. I just sort of just jumped on here thinking I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'll just rant and rave and whatever. And the fact that you all showed up and are asking really great questions, like, this has been great. So I think I'm going to end it there though, because I am kind of hungry and I haven't really had a chance to eat much. Oh, Chris, Steve, it's like you're good at YouTube or something. I know, right? Almost. I'm almost good at YouTube. um, I love the stream. I'll be doing more often. Actually, I might do it more often now that people are are enjoying this and are tuning in. I like it. What are your first thoughts about Cyberpunk? Go back to the beginning of. Well, actually, I'll give a sort of brief. I like this. I did mention this in the beginning of the stream, but I like the story. I like where it's going, but the accessibility is like I'm having to push through a lot in order to be able to kind of get through the story. Some books or audiobooks. I love audiobooks. Not trying to go. It's yep. You have fans. I do have fans. That's weird. You earned yourself a. Oh, thanks so much. Have a good one. Great channel. Thank you so much. The Cyberpunk story challenge the idea of a video game story. No, I've Last of Us definitely did. You just got myself. Oh, cool. Thank you. I discovered you. You're awesome. Oh, thanks so much. Happy holidays and everyone. Oh, thanks, Game Daughter. Yes, you too. Also, would be interested in options to join your channel or super chat. I thought about that. I might do it now because people seem to be interested in tuning into my stream, and this was just as random and impromptu as I possibly could. So it's possible I may actually do that. I don't know. We'll see. It's great to have enjoyed hearing you discuss this with everyone and all of our different opinions on the matters of accessibility in Cyberpunk. Thanks, Josh. I really I appreciate that, and thank you all for asking amazing questions in the chat. I wasn't sure if people were going to be doing that, and I would just sort of would be just ranting at just people like it just eventually we're going to see this video. So this was a great discussion. I'm so glad that that you all tuned in. I have trouble with FPS games myself, so to pass on, I totally understand that. This Friday night stream more often, or have a safe and happy holidays. Yeah, I definitely, I think I might. I'm gonna seriously think about doing more of these for sure. So anyway, thank you all for tuning in. You've all been absolutely amazing, and you have. If I don't see you or if I don't get a chance to talk to you, have a great and safe and happy holidays. Campaign against Steve to play Splatoon. I will play Splatoon, Christy. Yes, I will. I promise. All right. Thank you so much. And have a great rest of your day and a good weekend. And take care, everyone. This is great. This is great. Thanks so much. Bye.